Alright, I'm just on my way to the showroom this morning. I'm driving the 1980 Euro 380 SLC gray market import. We'll just do a little driving video here. I'm really excited about this car just because it's unusual and very cool. So hopefully you could hear that this is no ordinary US market 380 SLC. This is a European import. The European 380 SLCs were a lot different than the US versions. This car has over 200 horsepower. I think it's 217, but we'll confirm that. What's interesting about this particular car is that when it was new, it was taken to Lorenzer in Germany, where it got a body kit as well as Lorenzer sport suspension. We've still got that suspension on the car. You can see the stickers on the shocks. And this is the best handling SLC I've ever driven, and it feels a lot more like a Porsche than it does a Mercedes. An R107 or Roadster or a SLC is usually a pretty boaty car that I don't think handle very well generally, but this car sits a lot lower than a normal 450 SLC that we would have gotten here in this country, thanks to those Lorenzer modifications in period. And it just sticks and handles really well. It's a lot of fun. It's a really low VIN number on this car. I think it's 00042. So a very early 380 SLC. Of course, one of the great things about the 380s is that they got 4-speed transmissions as opposed to the 450 SLC that got the 3-speed, which is just a horrendous transmission in my opinion. I mean, I guess it's an okay transmission, but it just doesn't make for a very interesting driving experience. And then along with the European V8 in this car, it's sort of like a baby 5-liter SLC. I'm just going to crack my window a little bit for some air. We're going to go up the big hill that, if you watch many of my test drive videos, will look very familiar to you. I've got my bag sliding around in the back seat. The other interesting thing is that when this car was bought new, they also had a completely custom interior installed. It's a very light sort of parchment color with dark brown piping, and it reminds me, the quality of the leather is it's much nicer and softer than what Mercedes used. It reminds me a lot of the interior in a Ferrari Mondial that I sold a couple of years ago. Similar in terms of feel and grain of the leather. And they did door panels, they did the parcel shelf, even the door for the little compartment that holds the first aid kit is covered in this really high quality leather. And I mean, it just sticks. A regular SLC is such a fat, boaty kind of car. This thing just hustles right up this hill. decide if you like 1980 Lorenzer stuff or not, but I always feel like a bad guy on Miami Vice driving this car, like I'm going to meet Crockett and Tubbs with a briefcase. Well, it'd be Burnett and Cooper I'd be meeting if I was a bad guy meeting Crockett and Tubbs with a suitcase full of money for some clandestine drug deal. It's just so period. You've got the Lorenzer steering wheel, and you've got a Blaupunk Bamberg radio here, cassette player, and then you've got this Blaupunk graphic equalizer that comes up out of the side here, and I've only ever seen one other like this, and it was also in a gray market import. It was an 83 911 Targa that I pulled out of a barn in a little town called Fertile, Minnesota, in the middle of a snowstorm, but it had the same Blaupunk graphic equalizer. Another part of the customization of this car were that the gauges, all the numbers and indicators on the gauges are gold, and they have their numbers on them, but then they appear to also have Farsi characters, numbers on them as well, just next to the Arabic numerals. And of course the center gauge, the odometer and speedometer, were changed out when it was brought to this country, so it shows miles and miles per hour. But it is a fun car to drive, and it just looks so 80s period. It's hilarious. Got a little bit of play in the steering wheel, which is so common on R107s and C107s. I think some of that could be taken out with an adjustment at the steering box. Jamie Kopczynski at Classic Workshop in New Jersey did a very thorough PPI on this car before it was shipped to my showroom. You can have a look at that in the photos. I just don't get tired of it. Actually driving a little faster than I should be today. The rest of the drive here is pretty well straight on these country roads for the most part, so I'll shut it down. But that is the Lorenzer modified 1980 380 SLC European gray market import.